using PASTA authentication tokens from our Auth service. So if you're familiar with PASTA, you have to authenticate to do anything within PASTA other than reading public data. But if you're going to put published data into PASTA, if you're going to make any modifications to anything internal that is recorded, it changes the state in PASTA, you have to be authenticated. We have two types of authentication that we support. One is through our LDAP system. The other one is through OAuth, which basically supports those identity processes like with Google, GitHub, and ORCID. So we support both of those, but only the LDAP-based authentication provides a level of privilege that allows you to publish data into our repository. And I'm going to show you actually how to use this authentication token to actually, access PASTA itself. So Auth is an EDI service that performs both the LDAP and OAuth-based authentication. You would authenticate with Auth using your LDAP credentials. You would obtain what's called the authentication token, this Auth token cookie value from the response header, and then you reuse that Auth token value in any of your interactions with PASTA. By doing so, you have two benefits. One is you can always continue to use your credentials and your password to authenticate. You could do that continuously. However, that puts that identity and those credentials in the network traffic. And if that's ever compromised, then it's visible, possibly visible to an intruder. Second reason why you would want to use the Auth token is it's a lot more performant to use these authentication tokens, because every time you would send those credentials to PASTA to access something in the repository, it has to make a call to the authentication server to verify those credentials. If you use that authentication token as an alternative, it never goes out to the authentication server because it always verifies that token is a real token. So it stays within the scope of PASTA itself. So yes, you've probably saved maybe half a second, 1 second or so here and there. But if you're doing a lot of requests, which some systems are doing, you can save, a fair amount of time over the long haul. So how do I do this? I use HTTP GET, the HTTP again. I say I want to authenticate. I want to log in with the PASTA system. And again, I use the as authentication in HTTP. I give it the credential name here. And then if it's successful, it returns this token. So you get this 200 happy response. And this is the authentication token I was mentioning earlier. And what I wanted to point out is this token is made up of two parts. One is the actual token itself, which is highlighted in yellow. It's split here at this hyphen right there. This last part is the digital signature that enforces integrity on this token itself. So nobody can necessarily, the word I'm trying to remember, impersonate this token, because this is digitally signed and only PASTA can verify the signature at this point. So it makes it a fairly secure system. This is encoded using a base64 mechanism, which is very typical of websites. You can actually decode this. And in this case, if you copy that token part and using a Linux-based environment, you can say echo that to an application, a program called base64. You say you want to decode that. This is what comes out of the token. So there's the user ID. This is the full LDAP credential. And these are split based on these asterisks. Then you see this is our local, this is a namespace specification in terms of what the authentication system is. This big number is a time to live date timestamp. So it just basically says this token is good for about 18 hours, I believe, is what that time value is set to. And then finally, it shows the two groups that this user is affiliated with. These are automatic groups at this point. So this is that vetted group, which is the highly privileged group. So this means this user can actually upload data into PASTA. And then secondly, it also meets this authenticated group, which basically says the system knows who this person is, but we may not have vetted them. They may not have privileges to actually modify anything within PASTA. This is important because some of the data in PASTA, a very small fraction of the data, requires some level of authentication to view those data sets. And if we look at this particular data set, and nothing wrong with doing this, we advocate for completely anonymous public data, but if you wanted to track the use of your data packages, you can force this to be non-responsive to an anonymous user. So in this case, if I were to use the same HTTP command and try to download this particular data set, this is a data table, I'm going to get an unauthorized response. So that's an unhappy response here. And in the response body, it tells you this user public does not have permission to read this data entity. However, if I provide this authentication token that we just looked at, and I can actually add this to the request using this cookie. So these tokens are part of a cookie structure, a data structure. I say, what I'm telling Pasta is that look in this cookie, this is the name of the cookie, it's a key value pair. Here is the token itself. Use this token to authenticate this user. And you see then the response is the happy response now, and you see that you actually get the data coming down from Pasta here.